All right. Before I go to my next guest, I just want to touch on this top of the program. But the White House announcing today that they're lifting travel restrictions for foreign visitors. Now, there's been this kind of blanket restriction on foreign travelers into the U.S. from really since the outbreak of the virus. But here's the catch. They're lifting the broad bans on most non-citizens from entering the U.S. from the UK, the EU, and other countries, but visitors will have to show vaccination against COVID and a negative COVID test taken within 3 days of departure. And certainly they'll still have to wear a mask on the plane too. So this is in essence a vaccine passport for non-US citizens coming to the United States. Now, why do I bring this up? You know, the airlines are kind of celebrating this because it's going to mean profits for them because this is going to take effect in early November, which is a prime travel season for people coming to the United States. But could this be a precursor to a vaccine, quote unquote, passport for domestic travel for US travelers? Now, here was what President Biden's Dr. Fauci had to say yesterday on the Weekend Show.
Well, the team has a lot of things on the table. Nothing has been taken off the table. That decision has not been made. You know, the president made the decision when it comes to flying. If a person does not want to wear a mask or doesn't wear a mask, they double the fining on that. We have not yet gotten to the point of requiring vaccinations on domestic flights, but everything is on the table. We consider these things literally on a daily basis.
Again, that was Dr. Fauci yesterday on Meet the Press talking about how everything's on the table. And so I'm sounding the alarm on this because we see this propensity for mandates from this administration, and this could be next in line. A passport, vaccine passport for U.S. citizens for domestic air travel. Now, that's going to bring a host of legal suits if it does occur. But anyway, just sending up a little flare there. All right, as I mentioned, the United Nations, all the world leaders meeting this week in New York, talking about global warming, talking about COVID-19, but also talking about Afghanistan. And I want to talk about all these things this week, too. I want to talk about them from a different perspective. It's been 3 weeks since U.S. withdrew the last of troops from Afghanistan, and there are reports claiming that the Taliban has been arresting and in some instances executing people they perceive as enemies. And top of the list are Christians. Joining me now to give us an update on Afghanistan and what's been happening there is Chad Robichaux, a former Force Recon Marine and DoD contractor with 8 deployments to Afghanistan as a part of a Joint Special Operations Command task force. Last month, his organization, the Mighty Oaks Foundation, joined with other veterans in their organizations to form Save Our Allies, a coalition that's working to evacuate Afghan personnel who supported U.S. forces as well as evacuating their families. So far, the Save Our Allies coalition orchestrated the escape of 12,000 people from the clutches of the Taliban. Chad, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins.
All right, Semper Fi, Chad, let's start with the latest of what's going on in Afghanistan. I know you were in Washington recently meeting with some of the leaders. Are we making any progress in getting our allies and those that are vulnerable to the Taliban? Are we getting them out?
Well, I can tell you that the NGO community has been extremely successful. We need the continued support and partnership of the United States government. The United States government is not willing to do this themselves. We met with the Joint Chiefs. We met with members of the Department of Homeland Security on both the extraction and resettlement. We do have sanctioning. We are covered by both CENTCOM, NORTHCOM, OFAC to be actually doing these evacuations. We're continuing to do it. We just worked yesterday with Save Our Allies, partner with Nazarene Fund, Mercury One, Glenn Beck's folks. We got 95 girls who are the female soccer team for Afghanistan. We got those girls out. We have so many more that we're working to get out. Unfortunately, the United States government is not going to do it, but thankfully, they're not going to stop us from doing it as well.
So you say they're not going to stop you. Are they just saying, okay, go ahead, or are they actually helping?
No, they're not helping. They're just telling us, go ahead. We're not going to get in your way. Essentially, we're not going to be violating any laws by doing so. However, there are laws, international laws that we need State Department support with. We can't, an NGO just can't get a plane full of Afghans and fly them into any country. We have to have a place to land. And this has been the biggest problem. And we need the State Department to start clearing some areas for us to land and get people to. We need countries, host countries to land these Afghans in, including the United States. And so we need the State Department to move the needle on that. And we also need the White House and particularly President Biden to remove some hurdles. Currently, I just wrote a check today for about $18,000 to legal firms to pay $575 per person for humanitarian visas. We're having to pay for visas for those that we're extracting, including those the United States government flew out. And so this, I believe in a paid process for visas, but right now I think we need exemption from the White House through executive order there's no reason that an NGO like myself should spend $575 per person to write an $18,000 check when we're already paying for flights and other things like that.
Well, especially when in essence, you're doing the work that the military or the government should have done and not leaving these people behind.
That's right. And there's many more left, Tony. I estimate over 5,000 Americans are still there in Afghanistan. People were saying that I was overestimating or trying to pull heartstrings, and I was pretty firm on that number. And then we seen in the Senate hearing last week that 5,000 is about the number. You could just go off the White House's math. They said 16,000 were in Afghanistan before the pullout. They claimed to have got out 6,000. 6,000 minus 15,000 is not 200. But even if it's one American, we still need to be doing everything within the United States government's capability to get that person out. And we're not. And that includes our allies as well.
Chad, when you say 5,000 Americans that are still there in Afghanistan, are these individuals with dual citizenship that are both Afghan citizens and U.S. citizens? Or do we have, NGOs that were working there in Afghanistan that were left behind as well?
I'd say both, but I think the majority of those are dual citizens, which makes it even more dangerous, in my opinion, because, if an Afghan American has a blue passport and they get it taken from them, they know that they will never get out. And that's why we're seeing them hiding right now. We have, safe house networks that we're hiding them in. And they're scared to go. They're scared to go out because as soon as they lose that blue passport, they're done. They're never leaving Afghanistan, and they know it.
You mentioned about the State Department needing to assist in taking these flights out and landing in particular countries. I've been working in my other capacity with the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, talking to different countries that are willing to host, and there's actually a number of countries that are willing to host these families. But again, it's the State Department that has to cut the red tape in order for them to get out of the country, the flights to land somewhere, and then for them to be dispersed to host countries.
Yeah, in fact, the State Department has blockaded several efforts from NGOs that had arrangements with the host nation to take a flight and land in another country, and it's the U.S. State Department that calls that country and says, "Do not accept this flight or these refugees." I don't know the motivation behind that. Whatever the reasoning would be, but that is taking place.
Chad, what about the reports that are coming out of Afghanistan of Christians and other religious minorities being executed by the Taliban?
I'm hearing that and I'm not hearing it through rumor mills. We're hearing it firsthand from people that we have on the ground in Afghanistan. I have been sent videos, which I can't share publicly because it would reveal the source of some of the locations of the safe houses if the Taliban saw those videos. But we have videos of people filming out of their windows of Taliban putting people in the trunks of their car while they're tied up and being drove off. And we're being told they're driven off to execution sites.
What do you think is the window, the time frame here by which these that are still left behind, vulnerable, how much time do we have to get them out of Afghanistan before it's too late?
it's closing fast, Tony. I mean, I was hoping that Panjshir would hold out for 2 to 3 months. I knew it would fall, but I was hoping 2 to 3 months. That way we could be flying flights out of a controlled area. Now we only have small pockets of resistance. And then, we have some areas that it's hard to say, but actually where there's not friendly Taliban, but a little more friendly to working with the flights coming out. The Taliban has not seemed to be able to collectively be a unified force yet. And so thankful for that. We're able to still get some of these flights out and even some cross-border stuff, both in every direction you can imagine. I don't want to say any specific, but we're rushing because we don't. When I say we're rushing, we're trying to get as many rescues completed right now because we don't know what the window is. We just know it's going to be short. And right now I'm flying out again. I just bought my plane ticket. I'm flying out here in 2 days and going back over there and doing some advon for some at the rescue operations that we have ongoing. And to get more people out because we know that window is definitely closing.
Chad Robichaux, you've as I mentioned at the top of this segment, that you had 8 deployments. You've been there many more times. Over the last 20 years, the U.S. has been there in Afghanistan. You've been there a large part of that time. What do you make of what's happening? How can you explain what we're witnessing?
Well, first of all, and this isn't a popular opinion, but I think we've been conditioned to believe that we were in a 20-year war and that we were in the endless war and we had to get out of Afghanistan. And that foundational truth is just, it's just not true. We were not in a 20-year war. The war was over 3 years ago. We were supporting and advising the Afghan National Army in relationship with the entire international community. Bagram Air Force Base was the most strategic location in the globe in today's current world between Iraq, Iran, Russia, China, and the international community owned that. And we rotated there and supported the Afghan National Army to fight off the Taliban on their own turf. And it was working. And we were kind of pushed to believe that we had to get out of this with only 4,000 troops there. In fact, at one point we only had 2,500 troops there. And I believe that, that was why I believe it's a falsehood, is because you look at something like Japan, where we have 80,000 troops since World War II, or Germany with 40,000, or South Korea with 30,000 troops. Why was it such an imminent decision that we had to get 4,000 troops out? And when this was decided without the rest of the international community, who was successfully keeping terrorism at bay by participating at Bagram Air Force Base.
And as you mentioned, that base was very strategic, not just for Afghanistan, but for that entire region of the world.
Yeah, and now it's still a strategic location, only it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to Iran, it belongs to China, it belongs to Russia, and Pakistan now. And so, we've taken that most strategic location on the globe and we've given it to our enemies.
Will the Taliban, will they contain their activities there to Afghanistan, or are you concerned that the very reason we went over there 20 years ago to address terrorism is going to find its way back to American soil?
No, I think anybody who's read a history book knows what who the Taliban is and what their ideology is. It's to convert or kill the rest of the world that doesn't believe in their radical jihadist ideology. And they will put up madrasas around the country. They're going to take all these kids that are there and they're going to run them through madrasas and sow hate into their hearts and teach them that the rest of the world is to be exterminated. And they're going to be pushing these young kids out around the globe to conduct terrorism on a global scale, and particularly the West. America is going to be at the top of the list. And so this is going to be something that this isn't a 20-year war that we ended. This is a new war that we started by not keeping our finger on the pulse of the Middle East, the terrorism in the Middle East, and keeping control of the Taliban in that region. It's going to be horrific for the free world.
Yeah, I unfortunately think you are right. Chad Robichaux, always great to talk with you. Thank you for what you're doing for those who are at risk and being targeted there in Afghanistan.
God bless. Thank you.
All right.